Yay! Okay, I'm very excited. Thank you guys so much for watching and being here as we continue to celebrate Black History Month. I'm Alex Finney here at CBS 42, and I have an amazing group of people here to really discuss just kind of looking at where we've been in terms of Black culture to really marry it to where it is we're going when we look ahead to the future. So first thing I want to do is I want to welcome you all here to CBS 42, our humble abode away from home. And I want everyone to introduce themselves to just kind of get our viewers acclimated and associated with who you guys are. So let's start with you. Yes.
Okay, my name is Darrell Hill. I work for the University of Alabama at Birmingham, UAB, in the microbiology department. I'm just a bioinformatician over there. Trying to think anything
You're good.
else.
You're good.
That's all I got.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, so my name is Daniel Greer. I'm a fashion designer for Splash by DKG, co-partner with Magic City Fashion Week, and an educator with Birmingham AIDS Outreach.
Awesome.
My name is Shantae Wolf-Sisson, field strategist and co-founder of Black Pearl.
Michael Chef Asher, screenwriter, and I work at Regents Bank.
All right. Now going over to the back.
My name is Randy Gully, and I'm currently a student at Lawson State, and my major is public relations. And I'm also a campus organizer with Woke Vote.
Awesome.
Chad Freeman. I'm a African American Studies major at UAB, and I'm also the co-director for our Black Student Awareness Committee.
Robin Gully. I am a sophomore political science major at Birmingham Southern, and I'm also the campus organizer there for Woke Vote.
My name is Christian Caldwell. I'm a sophomore at Birmingham at Lawson State. And
Get it right now, get it right.
I'm a sophomore at Lawson State, and I'm a culinary major, and I'm also one of the campus organizers for Woke Vote.
Awesome. All right, cool. All right, so let's delve into this conversation right now. I really want to talk about, obviously, the political arena. I think that has really charged a lot of people and gotten people involved in the conversation about our country and beyond our country as well, and kind of where we're going as a society. I'm just going to throw the questions out there, guys. Whoever wants to pick it up, it's like a game of Family Feud. You know, you hit the button and go. Start talking, okay? So the first question I have that I want to talk about is, what do you think are the biggest political issues that are dividing the country right now?
Okay, I'll start it off. So,
go ahead.
The biggest political issues, I think, are going to be mainly along the lines of misrepresentation when it comes to understanding the divide when it comes to a lot of the different issues in the Black community, as well as the Latino community, when it comes to poverty, employment, things of that nature. Because on the one hand, you have kind of a situation where two sides have never really had a full experience, because, you know, when you're white, although you can kind of relate, you can kind of understand some of the difficulties that Black people go through, you're not necessarily really kind of living that struggle. And there are some people that never see that struggle. So when you come out and you say, hey, you know, I feel like our schools are not getting funded enough, they're like, well, I don't really see that because I never related to that, because our schools have always been funded. I have some Black people that go to my school that also has enough funding. We see them be successful, so what's the difference between you and them? Where you have to understand that in a global scale, it's not quite as black and white when it comes to the differences between each individual person. Yeah, you'll always find some success stories on both sides of the line, but you can't always just compare that one individual instance with the overall picture. So, I'm sorry.
And to piggyback off of what you're saying about poverty, I think the layer below poverty is always classism. So now we find ourselves arguing about who has the right to have access to these resources and education that those who, you know, deal with survivor's remorse, aka getting out of the hood, you know, deal with when they get into more elite positions of power. And I think that it's not helpful between brown and Black communities, because oftentimes, because we face oppression so much outside in the real world, when we get to each other, you know, it's almost innate that we replicate what we face outside. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, very good point.
Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this question?
I think the biggest things dividing the country would be immigration and gun control. Primarily because when you talk about like immigration, it's kind of funny. Like, I'm an African American Studies major, so like when I look back historically on the immigration history of America, it's just funny how, like, you know, over time, just the ethnic group changed, and that's why the problem is, you know, how it is. Like, when we talk about Ellis Island, when the Europeans first came over, their you know, people thought they were going to take over the country and ruin it. But over time, they just became Americans. So I feel like with the Middle Eastern travel ban and with especially the whole Build a Wall thing, it's kind of like, you know, people are losing sight of the fact that this is what this country was founded upon. So like the immigrants here actually benefit society. So I think that's like the largest thing dividing the country. And as far as gun control, I mean, I think that's just like, you know, it's either you're with it or you're against it. So I think it's almost like a 50-50 divide in the country.
And you know, the thing is that when we look at, you know, like ask the question, what do you think is dividing the country? We cannot forget the fact that there are still so many wonderful things that do unite us as well. And that's the other side of this question that I do want to ask, because I think so much we get bogged down with the negative that we almost blind ourselves to seeing the positive that surrounds us every day. So what do you think are some of the great things in this country?
I think something that actually unites us is entertainment, be like movies or music. Like, for example, Black Panther, like that was a big cultural thing for a lot of Black people. But I was able to go to work and talk to people who didn't look like me about how great the movie was and what we got from it. The conversation might be a little different when it came to like representation, but it was just nice to actually like have that conversation. And even with music, like we go to parties and, you know, we all dance to the same music.
Yeah.
So that's what I.
Anyone else want to add?
I was about to
Yeah.
Sorry. Along with entertainment, of course, I mean, that's what I love about what I do with fashion, too, because fashion has a way, everyone has to have a clothes to wear, right?
Of
so
course.
it's a beautiful way of us having a common ground. You know, just having something in common, something to start with, talk about. You don't have to worry about what race you are, all this stuff. So that would be my...
And then I was just going to add that I think that Woke Vote is doing a lot of work in Black communities and getting them not just mobilized but excited about utilizing their right to vote. And so like tomorrow we'll be having like our Woke Vote conference, and so we'll be having like sessions from 5 to 9.
Yeah.
And then on Wednesday the conference will be continued from like 9 to 2. And so they'll be talking about ways that we can get out in the Black communities for the upcoming governor's elections and the other elections that we have this year. And so I think that the work that they're doing has been integral into bringing our communities together and giving us hope for like the future.
And you know, that really rolls right into my next question, because that is why we call this forum Millennials on the Move. When we look at one of the biggest things that have happened here in Birmingham over the last few months, I would say that it was the election of Mayor Randall Woodfin. And I think that that really just got people excited again about being part of the political process, certainly here locally in Birmingham. What do you think that this means for the younger generation when they see moves like this being made?
I know the first thing I felt like was your voices are heard, and you
Yeah.
actually saw a tangible sign that your voice matters, that it means something, and that when we all get together and unite for the greater good, you see what kind of results happen. And then you also saw Doug Jones get elected as well, right behind that. And hopefully this just creates a domino effect that we're out using our voices and we're standing together and uniting beyond the things that maybe our parents and other people have had to go through.
And ultimately, I think with Randall's election, his team and others have smashed the stereotype that a lot of elders place on youth, that we are always the leaders of tomorrow. We don't have to wait till tomorrow because we are our own saviors today. And I think that energized a lot of high school and elementary school students to not think of, you know, being a mayor as something that's like something that you could probably achieve by the time, you know, it's time for you to retire.
Yeah.
I think it represents like a shift, just like how you were saying. It's a shift in like who's in control. Because, you know, we're so used to hearing when we were younger, like, you know, oh, y'all up next, or y'all, you know, y'all gonna have the power. But like seeing Doug Jones and Randall Woodfin, it's like, wow, like we really are in control right now. So I think it represents that shift in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll also say that, just to piggyback off what you all said, that it's really important to see that representation when it comes to being young and kind of finding out what is it that I want to do. You know, so you look back and, you know, there was a time where you just didn't see a lot of people that looked like us in those positions. And it's like, that representation is very important because it's another idea, it's another role model. You know, yeah, we're great at entertaining, obviously, but it's like there's so many other avenues for you to kind of just express your talents, and it's very important to see somebody there.
Yeah. And, you know, being that, you know, obviously it's Black History Month, we have one day left. We're continuing to celebrate to the last moment. I did a story right before we came onto this Facebook Live. It was about the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and looking at how that has surged what we see now locally. And I think we've been talking about it, like the election of Doug Jones, how it has surged just the young people getting involved in the political arena. What do you think when you look at that and you look at the scope of that? How do you think millennials, young people, the next generation, is able to glean from the civil rights movement to push and continue to push for social change?
I'd say number one is just staying informed. You know, we're at a time where everybody has kind of the most information ever possible at the reach of their fingertips, and you got to do your research. Number one, one of the biggest. Like how Will Smith says, sometimes too much information, or Will Smith was him. I can't remember which one it was. They were talking about how too much information. It was Denzel, my man Denzel.
Oh, that's a good one too. Okay.
He was talking about what's the price of too much information, because you know, sometimes when you have so much information, you got to filter out what's actually true and what's actually not, because it's very easy to be led astray. But the ability to be able to do such thorough research and be able to look back at stances and platforms that people have stood on, and then be able to make your evaluations is very important when it comes to millennials being able to access that power that we do have when it comes to the voting.
All right, so did anyone else want to add to that? No? Okay, so I want to get to one thing that I think we all know very well as millennials. We're always on our phones like this. What'd you say, Mom? Oh, yeah, that's good. So I think that there are so many positive things about cell phones. Do people like really use laptops anymore in terms of when they're home? I feel like this is like our laptop, our phone, our everything. So I think it's so great that we use these devices. You know, we were able to, you know, continue pushing agendas and whatnot. But what do you think are the drawbacks to always using phones?
I think one of the major drawbacks when it comes to organizing with social media and phones is you could mess around and fall into only organizing a bubble of people. And I also think that we look at the 60s and they organized with paper and pen.
Right.
Paper, pen, and phones, and DJs playing certain songs at certain times to know this is when the meeting is going to start. And if we don't start talking to our elders about how that happened, one day when we lose all this access to information, we are going to be out of luck.
Do you think that our phones are, because there are benefits and then there are drawbacks to everything, do you think that our phones and our technology is more of a benefit or more of a drawback when it comes to bringing people together?
Definitely a benefit.
Benefit.
Benefit. There are some drawbacks. Sometimes it's one of those things where moderation is key. You know, you can't have a little bit of a social strain when it comes to being too used to just contacting or communicating through the phone. But at the same time, you know, you can rally troops from long distances very quickly. Send a text out, get the group message going, and it can happen fast.
Yeah.
I think like the Black Lives Matter movements and things of that nature kind of shown that like you can get people together really quickly when it's used properly.
Anyone else want to add to that? Everyone thinks it's like a benefit, right? Of course it's a benefit.
You know, whose hands it's in. I mean, it could go either way. But
Too much of anything is not a good thing, though. But I do agree with you. The pen and paper, I feel as though it's a lost art. It's an art that I still love. Like, I still see my grandmother writing calligraphy, and I'm like, I hope we don't fully lose this as much as I love technology.
And we're also like maintaining, if we don't mind ourselves in using technology, we're creating and maintaining generation gaps between older folks that may want to help our movements, but they don't use the internet and aren't interested in trying.
Yeah. When we look at some of the stuff that, into sticking with the social media conversation topic, when we look at just some of the stuff that's posted online, right? And I know, you know, everyone has an opinion, right? Everyone's an expert on everything. But certainly when we look at just social change, and that's a word that I just continue to use throughout this, how do you think is the best way to address people that have different opinions from you? Because see, my thing is always, I don't mind when you have a different opinion, because we all do. But I like to learn from you, and I want you to be able to learn from me and take something away. So sometimes, you know, we always find ourselves getting involved in like arguments, and it's like, wait, where do you hop the brakes? So how can you use these posts sometimes and these comments to post, certainly on Facebook and whatnot, to educate instead of starting an online fight?
Well, I think it goes back down to like how you said that like over time you're scared that people are going to lose, you know, some of the older arts of just communicating in like general. So like I'm in student multicultural diversity programs at UAB, and I interact with people who I probably would never talk to, you know, when I was in high school. But what happens is once you get around different types of people and you make a decision to listen instead of just being like, you know, no, this is what I think, that's what you think, then you'll learn a lot and a lot of things can be done. So even when it comes like to activism about whatever thing you want to stand up for, if an oppressed group, whether it be women, whether it be minorities, whether it be the LGBTQ community, when they talk, you should listen because these people are affected by it. So once you put, you know, the pride to the side and then listen to these people, I think that's when like the whole political forefront will all come together and get stuff done. But until that happens, it's gonna be pretty tough.
Go ahead.
And I'm definitely in agreement with him because so many people listen to argue instead of listen to understand.
I think that's a big, yeah.
Even my friend Robin Gully right here, she started a pop-off summit about 3 years ago, and that's just where youth come together in a controlled group where we can just talk to one another, people of different races, cultures, ethnicity. We just come together to talk in a controlled setting, and we understand each other. We don't try to say your opinion is wrong, mine is right. We just try to understand what the other person is going through and where they're coming from.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to add to that?
You can go ahead.
Oh yeah, go. Just jump over each other's words. Just fight for the microphone. Go, do it.
So I was just gonna add that I have definitely learned to be very open-minded. So like I said earlier, I'm a sophomore at Birmingham Southern. And so there are many times I found myself in conversations where I don't agree with people. And so I've learned to listen to their side, and then I can still think the things that I'm thinking, and I can share with them my side. But I've learned that sometimes you can take things from people who have different perspectives from your own. And if you're respectful, then you can share your thoughts and ideas because that'll impact their thoughts somehow on the topic that y'all are having, if they're willing to also be open-minded.
Perfect. And just kind of bringing it back a little closer to home now, looking at Alabama and going back to the U.S. Senate race. I know that you're part of Woke Vote. You guys are part of my story that I aired at 6 o'clock. I think what you guys do is absolutely amazing. But when we look at that, it was a historic election. What do you think it is, and moving beyond millennials, just people coming out to the polls, what do you think it was that energized people to really get out? And it didn't matter what side you were for, but really get out and make your voice heard.
I think that Woke Vote did many things, but one of the most important things was the relationships that we built in less than 5 weeks. Because so I remember Deanna Reed giving me a call and saying, "Robin, do you want to be a campus organizer?" And then it was the week before finals. Well, it was literally the weekend before finals, and I was just like, of course, what do I need to do? And then she was just like, we're going to be getting people committed to voting. And so we had student organizers all over the state of Alabama getting students on their campuses committed to voting. But we weren't only just doing work at colleges, we were getting out in the community and going door to door, knocking on the doors and talking to people and seeing whether or not they would vote, or whether or not they were planning to vote in the election. And we definitely got a whole lot of no's, and that was discouraging. But the people that we got no from, we took our time and had the hard conversations, whether it was history lessons or if we were just talking to them about the fact that your vote matters. Because I think that during that period, I noticed how so many people feel like their voice doesn't matter. But what Woke Vote did for me as a college student was, it was so empowering because I saw many black people in positions of power, like DeWanna Thompson, who is the leader of Woke Vote, and I saw like Jeremiah Chapman and David Dixon. They got up in the morning, like maybe 4 or 5 in the morning, to travel all across the state of Alabama so that they could be working with those different campuses, getting not just the students organized, but getting out into the different neighborhoods. And I think that that kind of energy that we put into those different communities mobilized people and got them excited about exercising their right to vote. And we saw that our efforts were successful in the Doug Jones Senate election, because 98% of black women voted for Doug Jones. And then I don't want to mess up the statistic for black men. I strongly think that it's 96%,
Somewhere around there, between 95 and 96.
95 to 96%. So I think that what Woke Vote was doing was basically like saying, when you invest in black communities, when you invest in black businesses, when you invest just in general, we'll do what we have to do.
And I also want to pause 1 second. Kayla, do we have anyone? No one's commenting?
I mean, they're not asking.
Oh, they're not asking questions, but we're getting comments. Okay, cool, perfect. Don't tell me we don't get any comments now. It's supposed to be like, what? Okay. Like, I want to piggyback off of what you just said about investing in black communities. So I always hear this a lot of times, and I think a lot of people do in the black community, is that we always want other people, whether it's, you know, different nationality, so on and so forth, to understand our struggle. But how do you think as a people we can do better at supporting one another in the black community, like really building up one another? And also, another side of that, do you think that we are doing enough to support one another in the black community?
First, we have to start supporting each other. That would be the great start. But I know there's so many different factors that goes into that. Like when you start somewhere, it's like automatically we're both black men working in a position, so we got to fight each other for that spot or whatever. But I keep mentioning my fashion brand because collaborations is the key. It's how you can succeed. We can do. Obviously, she just told you with Woke Vote how they went out and they did a lot of footwork, that they were able to go and knock on doors and do all that thing. If we did all that stuff together, like our people before us, Martin Luther King and all of them, when they would band together to go out as a group, as a collective to make things happen, if we could get back to that, there's no telling what we could do. I mean, I felt like in Black Panther, she was mentioning about drinking the juice earlier, but seriously, that's how I would feel if I knew I had all these sisters and brothers of mine that would go out just for something, the greater good. Nobody's whose name's on it, who's getting the credit and all that, just for the greater good of the community, for people that's coming after us, to make it easier for other people. And that's what we did with Magic City Fashion Week. I wasn't getting a lot of opportunities here as a local designer. So what we did was we started building communities where I want to give that platform to other designers that I wasn't getting. Simple as that. And we have to get back to doing stuff like that.
So the bottom line, the message you're sending, we have to do better at supporting one another first, before we can get to a point where expecting other people to fully support us.
Right,
Does
when
that
we're
make
not
sense?
doing that our own self.
Yeah.
Like we could, if I really believe, so the mayor won't come and fix this street or whatever, we could get out and do that stuff. It's our street. We have to live here. We can raise the property value of our own estate and things like that. I feel like a lot of us, we've gotten in the mode of just sitting back and just complaining about stuff, rather than, you know, like I tell my team, come to the table with solution-based things. Like, we can talk and pick problems all day long. But
girl, you know, I'm just too through with this. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
But we need to put that energy into solutions, and we would see a lot more things get done, I promise. And support goes a lot of ways, because I know a lot of people say, well, how do you support? A lot of people don't have money. It's not about that. You could be out sharing their page or sharing what they're doing that's positive. You could be sending encouraging messages, because you will need those from time to time. You could be, you know, somebody that has something that's similar, connect them to, just introduce them. All that stuff is support.
Yeah, I think you answered that well. Preach. Okay, you wanted to add to that?
Okay.
All right.
I was just gonna add.
You gonna duke it out? Who goes first?
I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go. Okay. I was just gonna add that of course we have to start holistically supporting each other as black businesses, and not when it's, you know, works in your favor or transactional. I think that when we start talking about black businesses, we need to make sure and be careful that we do not replicate the same capitalist systems that exclude poor folks and folks that are rural, which makes up most of the state.
Very good point to add.
Very good.
Only thing I was gonna say is another thing that I think we do a little bit of a better job is really passing around the knowledge. Like, just because you kind of made it to the success point you want, go back and teach the young kids. Because one thing I would tell you is when I look at like all the opportunity, I'm kind of in the tech world, because I did my master's in computer science. So I look at all the things when it comes to apps, when it comes to different technologies that these young kids could do. I look at Flappy Bird. Flappy Bird is always my number one, because I could have made that. It's such an easy, like, designing an app really isn't that hard once you start understanding the concepts. And these are things that people can get into at very young ages. There were kids in my classes that I was struggling in that they were over there doing their homework the day before, having perfect A's, because they've been doing it for 6 or 7 years. They started when they were in 10th or 9th grade. And if you have a computer, which a lot of people do, or if they don't, they have access to one, whether it be a library, whether it be a friend's, you can get them into this tech program. So it's really a situation of, when I look back on my childhood, I think about how many opportunities there were that I just wasn't really knowledgeable about, that I wasn't really conscious of. And when you start teaching that knowledge at a young age, it gives them such a larger net they can cast when they get older, when it comes to picking where you want to be. There's just so many opportunities that you can access, but a lot of us just don't know about them. When it comes to so much information, when it comes to some of the basic things, taxes, how gathering property, so many other objects. That, like, if you start teaching at a younger age, and they slowly venture out and gain that knowledge, they'll be in such a better situation when they hit 18, 19, getting ready to go off to college.
Perfect. So, Jarrell, I need to know when your app is coming out so we can like all download it. Hope it's free in the App Store. You know,
you're making money by the advertising. That's a little hint for y'all.
The more you know. Okay, so I do want to ask this question. What are some things people in the media can do, whether it's news or entertainment, to make sure people stay engaged in social change?
They could stick around after hotbeds of protest and our advocacy die down in the media's eyes. We can see the hashtag #MeToo, and as soon as something egregious happens, it's taken over by another story, and people are no longer engaged. We have to stop making it seem like it's just like hot topics or police brutality is a hot topic. No, this is something that's affecting communities, and when y'all are having these newscasts or forums and or town halls, y'all need to make sure that there are things that people can go to make sure they are connected in their communities, which could mean people tabling at these things, if possible. I don't know if that's within the rights of folks that do news, but I think that we could do more as far as like doing the homework and like giving people that extra push, because it's already one thing. It's not hard to find a story on your phone. All you have to do is scroll down. But what if you put learn more under the link about this issue? Imagine how much more we could get done if people could get more, I guess, in little bits of time.
And sharing more positivity, but that is something I love about CBS 42, and they ain't pay me to say it. Y'all really care about the community, and it shows, because a lot of the issues, domestic violence, all these things that y'all cover are not hot. I mean, it's hot topic if so many people get killed or something like that. But just doing it every day, like what we're doing right now, there's not too many news stations that are going to do something like that they're not benefiting from up front, you know. So sharing the positivity, because there's so much negativity. You have to go nowhere to find that. So
that's true.
That would be my little tidbit on that.
And just to piggyback, it's like when we think about news, like you said, with hot topics, it's almost like it's become entertainment. Like, okay, so this is the hot topic this week. We're going to get 2 analysts to talk about it, and then next week we're on to the next thing. Whereas I feel like we should take that into our hands, just like you said with social media, with our phones and stuff. Like, I think one of the biggest things that our phones did, especially for Black Lives Matter, that some of y'all mentioned earlier, was that it's a difference from hearing something on the news than when I can show you a real recording or a video of someone being mistreated by the police, or someone being mistreated because of their ethnicity or whatever social group they represent. So I think, like, in order for us to make it, you know, past the hot topic type of thing, we just got to keep talking about it. Like, don't let it die down. So the Me Too movement, every chance you get, you should be putting it in somebody's face. Like, this is what's going on. So we just got to force the issue.
Yeah, moving just beyond, you know, the discussion about Black history, but just in general, just the many and the various topics that we have seen hit the airwaves over the last year and so on and so forth. And I also, the other side of that question, I'm really interested in hearing in terms of entertainment, like entertainers that we see. Do you think that they do a fine enough job with representing the Black community? Do you think that they could do a better job? Where do you think they lack? Where do you think they're great?
It depends on what outlet you're talking about. 'Cause if you're speaking of love and hip hop and things like that, we don't need to be watching stuff like that. But it just seems the market is just moved. It just thrives on negativity, and that's the part that I hate, because now I like, even with my birthday just last month, I asked for only books because I don't even want to watch TV for the next few months. That's all that's on there is garbage and fighting, and people just. And the younger children are watching it. They want to be like the housewives. They want to be like these people on Love and Hip Hop. And that's where our culture is going to go, because the parenting is, sadly, a lot of them are on here too. So they're keeping up with Facebook and all that. And if Real Housewives of Atlanta is raising your children, those are the children that my children are going to be in school with. And it's a frightening reality.
Just piggybacking off of what he said, like, that is, like, negativity is more salient. And I think that it would be good for creatives to kind of like provide examples and visions of what support and, you know, mobilizing and just really innovative ideas to help our community looks like to influence younger kids, especially if we could like make it look cool. So, you know, it draws that attention from negative stuff to more like solution based, you know, stuff that you were talking about earlier, that we've all talked about.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
Like we need a movement like woke vote, but for what you watch. So we're pushing out like shows like
Wake up, turn off
Insecure,
the
even though
TV.
that's a little mature, but it's at least real things that we all go through and we can learn from it. Or like when Living Single was on and Family Matters and things like that, that
The
had
Cosby
you know
Show.
great content in it. I don't want to grow up to be like these people that are on reality TV. And what a lot of the kids don't know is that they have film times and all that. Like me and her gonna meet up for coffee every day and we hate each other. Like that's not real life. That's not reality. But they don't know all that goes behind the scenes to make those shows work.
Right.
Yeah.
But we, from listening to you all, we have that power in our hands to only share and say, hey, we only want this kind of content on our television. So we have to, you know, we're getting this power, but we really have to do something with it.
And you know what bothers me though? Like with the NFL, like you remember when with the Colin Kaepernick situation and everyone was taking knees, and that was like a huge thing in America, like taking a knee for social injustice. But as soon as those players broke off that check for whatever charitable organization that they wanted to give to, we don't hear anything else about it anymore, and it's not even an issue anymore. So I'm like, what message are you sending to kids? Because like kids that are watching football players, they look up to you and they see, oh, okay, well he got what he want now, so I guess it doesn't matter. Like just like you said, we got to show more positive things on TV, and we got to make sure that our kids are watching the right stuff.
Anyone else want to add to that? Or do we?
I was gonna add that I think that Blackish is a really good show. Like, it
Blackish
speaks
is
to
great.
Blackish is amazing.
It is.
I think
Grownish
is also amazing. I think that they speak to many of the issues that we face in the Black community, but they do that in a positive way. And I think that even if you're not Black, that you probably enjoy Blackish as well. But I also think that there are actors who recognize I guess the power that they have and the things that they can do to impact their fans. Like I know that so Alicia Keys founded she's the co-founder of the Keep a Child Alive Foundation, and so they do a lot of work in Africa. But I know that she is using and she has like the no makeup campaign, so like empowering women. I know that Taraji P. Henson is getting ready to work on like a movie about Emmett Till, and so I think that actors are. And like, of course, the actors in Black Panther, like they recognize how their roles, inspire the people that are watching TV, and they know that their comments on different things really impact young people, and so I think that they are very cognizant of that, and they want to inspire their fans in the best way that they know how.
Representation is the key.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish that trend keeps up with the athletes, because I feel like they have a huge, and I get the you know, the advertisements and the sponsors that they have behind them, and they can't do certain things or they're afraid to lose that. But yeah, we have to stand up for more issues like that. And I didn't see, you know, we could have really banned it behind Colin when he did that. Well, obviously people with much more money than what I have. But, you know,
If you're watching,
thankfully,
Colin.
there is Jay-Z and there's people that are pouring back into the culture, because what he said was, even with Birmingham in particular, so many people get successful and they do what? They leave because the opportunities aren't here. And I lived that life, so I know all about it. But if we don't stay back and invest into the next generation, nothing's ever going to change. Not for the good, anyway.
I just want to take a moment. Oh, Kayla? Okay, nothing. Okay. I just want to take a moment to go around and everyone just give, you know, your thoughts on Black History Month and kind of one lasting impression that you want to leave this year on people that are watching our Facebook Live, people that can watch it once we post it to our website. But what is your one lasting thing or one lasting comment that you want to leave? I want to start with you. Yeah.
Well, mine is for Black History Month. I would say that if you put your mind to it, that you can achieve it, and you could be successful with like anything you want to achieve. Don't give up. Like, don't let people bring you down. Keep your head up. So, yeah, you can achieve it.
I think mine would be learn and listen and advocate. I think we live in a society where, just like she said, like people want to argue their points more than learning. But we got to understand that we live in a melting pot of a country. It's people that don't look like you wherever you go, people that believe in things that you don't believe in wherever you go. So instead of just focusing on those differences, we need to love those differences, and that's what makes us Americans. That's what makes me an African American. That's what makes someone else a Jewish American or European American. So I think for Black History Month, my lasting thing for everyone out there watching is to learn and participate and get out there and get your hands dirty.
I like that.
I think I would add that I think that in a society that makes blackness seem like it's not special or that black people are inherently violent, or the idea that black people are not even humans, I think that what I learned over and over again in all of the stories like throughout the civil rights movement and just like different movements over time is that black people have always chosen to live. We've always chose to tell our own story the way that it really is. And I think that that's so inspiring because there's so many negative things out there that try to make us feel as though we aren't capable of being great. But then we have so many amazing people out there who hit the ground running, who continue to inspire us and let us know that we can. And I think that we just need to be reminded that our blackness is a powerful thing. It's beautiful, and we're game changers.
Well, for me, I'm a very spiritual person, and so the Bible does say, don't be weary in well-doing. And so if you know what you're doing is going to help the community and change something one day, don't get tired in what you're doing. Don't get frustrated, even though sometimes you will. You have to be persistent with what you're doing and keep doing it, keep going into the community, keep supporting black businesses, keep pushing forward. Because like she said, black people have always pushed forward, and that's how we're still here today. Since the beginning of the country, black people have been the constant in the country. So just keep pushing forward, keep doing what you have to do, and everything one day will get better.
Also, that's all great. One of the biggest things that I love, and this is one of the reasons I really enjoyed the movie Black Panther, is because as much as we've done, black history didn't just start with the slavery. There were so many empires, so many royalties, so many things that we did beforehand that I really enjoyed Black Panther because it kind of showed a brief glimpse. Because a lot of times when you hear about a movie talking about, mainly focusing on black or black history, it's typically a slavery movie, which we understand there were so many things that happened through slavery. There are so many crucial and key turning people in the fight for us to get our freedom, but there was also something that happened before that. And when you really start finding the pride in your ancestry and how we were able to come together as a people and build these great monuments, the pyramids, all these other things, it really gives you a pride and something to kind of continue to remember when you're trying to hold up that excellence when it comes to being black, and just to be really being proud of you. You know what I'm saying? Like they said, one of the biggest things is learning, understanding, and awareness. So always be aware and just be able to listen without a need to respond, be able to listen with a need to understand. And you'll always be able to gain the knowledge that you need to be able to push forward.
Very well said.
Absolutely. Wow. So let me first say I love being black. Given you can talk about all the ways in which that can not be a pretty thing, but I actually love it. I had a campaign with Splash by DKG that said being black is my power. I truly believe that. We came from, there are people that are still living that saw Martin Luther King and then they were able to see Barack Obama become the president of the United States. I mean, so if you know that that's your history, that's where you come from, and you brought over here one way, like he said, there was a whole time before that a lot of people don't even know about. So when I took the time to become a designer, to come do all these things, I learned, what other black designers were making indigo and doing all these things, and I got so inspired, even with Birmingham. I wanted to leave. I wanted to move to Cali, New York, Atlanta, you name it. But there were so many different things that I kept discovering about Birmingham, and Birmingham is so rich in its culture, and we changed the game in civil rights in Birmingham. So we come from such a great place. I echo that again, what they said. We have to know our history. You have to know where you've been to know where you're even going.
Yep.
So, I mean, just keep discovering all the different ways that make you the beautiful black person that you are, and if you're not, you're still great and wonderful too. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we as a people need to definitely know who we are, then we can plan to see where we're going and actually get there. And there are people that will help you get there. And even if there's not, you will get there because you have the power inside of you. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
I think my message to folks, especially young professionals like myself and those behind me, build your own content, build your own legacy. Do not depend on corporate organizations and or causes to attach your work to when you are perfectly able of having your own, whatever that may be for you. And also, we need to start investing in recording and retaining oral histories of Birmingham neighborhoods. These neighborhoods are being gentrified, and before we know it, our history will be heavily saturated with non-accurate information. Stay black, y'all.
I would just say that piggybacking off everyone, pretty much history is still being written. So figure out where you can get into it and what's your place, and just move from there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think all of this was great. I think our viewers have learned something. I definitely have taken some stuff away from what you guys have said. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. And I want to thank you all that are watching for being part of our Black History Month conversation called Millennials on the Move. And all these millennials right here, definitely on the move. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Comment below. Who's laughing? Why? Wakanda forever, yes. And the last thing I want to say, if you have not seen the movie Black Panther, we're not going to keep you here all night. Just make sure you go see it. It's an amazing movie. But yeah, happy Black History Month to all of us and to everyone that's watching now. And thanks for tuning in. Take care.